create a custom GPT and connect it to a FastAPI application hosted in Google Cloud Run. All the power of a back-end Python application without needing to build a UI or a front end. Plus, GPT can make decisions based on the context of your conversation as to which API endpoints to use and how to use them. This is a basic example of interacting with a shop to add or remove items from the shop. In future videos, we will be integrating different types of databases such as Firestore, a vector database, and a knowledge graph. So first of all, let's find the URL of our API. In the last tutorial, we deployed our app to Google Cloud Run so we can leave it running all of the time and it won't cost us anything unless we use it. In our case, using it will be when ChatGPT calls it. To get the URL, first we need to log into the Google Cloud Console and browse to Google Cloud Run and select the deployed app where we'll find the browsable URL. So we'll go to Google and type in Google Cloud Console login, Google Cloud Console login, and then just log into Google Cloud. This is following on from a previous tutorial, so if you haven't actually deployed your app, go back to the previous tutorials and you can build the app and deploy it to Google Cloud first. Go to my console. I've already logged in and I'm already on the project that we deployed to last time. So in the search bar at the top, type in Cloud Run and select the first option. And then we'll see GPT Experiment, and we're going to click that because that was the app that we deployed. And once we're in here, right at the top, just underneath Edit and Deploy New Revision, you'll see URL, and you can copy that to the clipboard and then open up a new tab and paste it in. We can browse to our API. So this is running in the wild. This is a production API. It's costing us nothing at all until we actually use it, and then in that circumstance, it spins up and it starts serving requests. So let's just test it first to see what it does. Use the get endpoint, try it out, execute. You can see item 1, item 2, ID 1, ID 2. And we can add to the shop by just pressing the test button and then typing some text and pressing execute. See, that's been successful. We head back to the top and use the get endpoint again using the execute button. We'll see we've now got 3. And what we're going to do is connect GPT so that it can interact with it instead of us interacting with this API. So now that we've got the URL, we're going to browse to the openapi.json. Now you can either type in openapi.json and with a slash at the end of the URL and then openapi.json, or you can click this little link in the top left and that'll take you to the same place. Browsing to the openapi.json gives us the OpenAPI v3 spec, which is what custom GPT tools require. And because of the way that we've set this up, including this server's URL at the bottom, all we need to do is copy and paste this straight into GPT, and this is already complete and ready to go. Before we do that, let's have a quick look at the spec, and one of the reasons that we've chosen FastAPI is the self-documentation. You'll see this entire file has been generated without us needing to add any additional libraries to the code, and it also included quite helpful additional information such as the description. So we'll see here this description, which can be found in the code wrapped in triple quote marks at the top of each function, and also the base model. So this is what it accepts and also what it outputs. And this allows GPT to understand the format of the data to enter and also the format of the data received by giving it context. So we'll take a look at that in the actual code. In the code, if we head over to roots.py, we'll see these triple quote marks, endpoint to update an existing item by ID, and then right at the top, we'll also see these models. So anything that says class, a word that you've chosen, and base model, all this is doing is saying this specific data shape should have a message and it should be of type string. And then it's also giving us a little bit of information at the top and without having to do anything, it's really clean code. Let's add the custom GPT. You'll need the paid version of ChatGPT, so GPT Plus, to create custom GPTs. First of all, we just need to log into GPT, so just browse ChatGPT and log in. And then we're going to select Explore GPTs, Create in the top right corner. This GPT interacts with an online shop, so that's what we're going to say in our description. We're going to call it Shop GPT. And in the instructions, what does this GPT do? How does it behave? And what should it avoid doing? So we're going to say it talks to an online shop. It adds items, removes them, and lists them. It should avoid adding items that start with the letter Z. Conversation starters, if someone else is going to use your GPT, or even if it's yourself and you just want a nudge as to what this can do, because you can connect multiple tools, we're just going to say add an item to the shop. Tell me what is in the shop. I'll just leave it at that. And then right at the bottom, you'll see actions and create a new action. And this is how we're going to actually connect our GPT to our API. So click create new action. Leave authentication as none for this experiment, although in the future we will be going through adding authentication to our app and then in GPT. The schema, you can import from URL using this button, but from my experience I found this doesn't always work. And as we've already got a complete OpenAPI v3 spec from our app, we're just going to copy and paste the whole thing into the schema. So if we head back to our URL, where we've got openapi.json on the end, and then just select everything and paste the whole lot straight into there. Now, at the bottom underneath, it's read that JSON and it's pulled out the different endpoints and it's documented them. So it says available actions. You can get items, post items, all the different actions that are available. All the different items that are available. Finally, at the bottom, in order to share a GPT outside of just using it in a private way, if you want to share it with a friend or make it public, you have to add a privacy policy. We've added a small piece of code inside our application, inside the main.py file, right at the bottom, this single endpoint that just says a get request to /privacy, and it'll just return this plain text. And then you see return plain text response, and we imported that up here. So we need to head back here. All we need to do is take the complete URL minus the openapi.json and just change it to /privacy. Just test it out first. Yep, that works. So just copy that and paste this into the privacy policy. And then on the right hand side, we can test our new GPT. So first of all, let's use one of the prompts that it's given us, so we can see add a new item to the shop. You can decide. So it's saying what item would you like to add to the shop, and it's also telling us from our instructions items shouldn't start with the letter Z. Before it actually interacts with these APIs, it will ask you to confirm. So this could be a GET request, it could be a POST, and you can press confirm, and then it'll follow through with the actions. So it's added an item called vintage coffee mug. So let's see if that's worked by saying, tell me what is in the shop. So it says starting action, so it wants to call it. It's a different endpoint, so I've got to allow it to make that call. And you can see at the bottom, vintage coffee mug. And also from earlier, when we added a test commit into our API, we can see that the third item is test. So if we just head back over to the API, let's get rid of this privacy, and then use the get endpoint, press try it out, execute. We can see vintage coffee mug has been added. And then just a couple of other experiments to show what you can do with this. We're going to let GPT make decisions. So we could say add 5 new items, you make up their names. Now we don't have an endpoint specifically for adding 5 new items. We can add 1 item at a time. So GPT is making the decision to call the endpoint 5 individual times, and it's added them all. So let's just do get items again. It's got all of the items that it's just added. So if we just head back to our API, we can see these items have been added. It's fantastic. And then we're gonna maybe delete some items. So delete the first 2 items in the shop and see what it does. Press confirm. So we can see the output if we just open up the debug, what the API has responded with. So it's deleted item 1, it's deleted item 2. So show me the items, show me the money, and we can see it's deleted the first 2 items. Perfect. Finally, we're going to add a new item starting with Z. So we're going to add Zach. Add a new item called Zach. And it's followed the instructions, and it said no, we're going to avoid adding Zach because it starts with the letter Z. So the final thing that we need to do, so we've just been testing it here, is in the top right corner, we're going to press create. And we can see there's a few options, only me, anyone with a link, GPT store, and because we've added the privacy policy, we can already select all of these options. If we hadn't added the privacy policy, you'd only be able to select this only me section. So I'm going to click anyone with the link and press save, and then view GPT. And now we can see in the top left we've got shop GPT. This is a custom GPT that we've just made, and add an item to the shop. It's given us that prompt that we've seen before. Can't add items beginning with the letter Z. Add a new item called Woo. Brilliant. So now it's added a new item to the shop. Show me the items. This is obviously a very simple test case, but as we make more complicated applications, this won't just be adding random things to a shop. We'll be adding things to a database, maybe processing them first, just doing various different manipulations that we might want to do, such as extracting specific bits of information before we enter it into a certain type of database, maybe using that to enter it into a knowledge graph and using some entity extraction and named entity resolution. So there'll be more exciting things that we do in the future, but this is just an example of how to connect GPT to FastAPI application. So have fun, and I'll see you in the next video.